Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Our great friend Tom Morello on the phone with us. And from Rage Against the Machine, Libertyville's finest, and big Cubs fan. Go Cubs, go. So Tom Morello joining us to talk about Revolutions, which is a play that he was heavily involved with. And Tom, I just want to hear you tell us about it from your words and what's going on with Revolutions at the Goodman Theater.
Yeah, well, this is a musical in which I wrote the music and lyrics, with the help of some friends. But it's not a musical like The Sound of Music or Lion King. It is a musical for Rage Against the Machine fans. It is a musical for Audioslave fans. It is a musical for fans of rock and roll and punk rock and hip hop. It is a radical theater event that we're trying to it has all of the, make it feel more like an illegal underground rock party than, a Christmas story or something.
Right.
And especially in these troubled times, every act of art is an act of resistance, and every song sung is a beacon of light in the gathering darkness. And I wanted to do this musical Revolutions here in Chicago, my favorite city in the world, at the Goodman Theater that I used to go to as a kid. And so it's a great place to start it, and we're very, very excited. Our opening night is on the 13th, but really looking forward to this event. I've got 22 albums of songs, and so we've culled some from those. I've written some original music for it, and it's really, really exciting. I can't wait for people to see it.
You've tackled pretty much everything you can in music, and doing something in this world has to be pretty rewarding when you tie the music, to a specific story, which Rage Against the Machine and what you've done with your solo stuff has done that. But this is next level with a musical on a stage.
Yeah. And one of the, I really, when we began this journey, Zayd Dorn, who's a Chicago playwright, good friend of mine, his parents, Bill and Bernadine Dorn, are like the fairy godparents of my children and whatnot. He's just a tremendously, he called me up during the pandemic and said, I love your catalog of music, beyond Rage Against the Machine, et cetera. I'd like to write a Chicago story incorporating it. And I said, well, give it a shot, man, and we'll see. And he wrote a beautiful Chicago story. It's a beautiful veteran story. It's a beautiful radical story. It's a beautiful rock and roll story. And so I said, well, let's do this thing, man. And the Goodman Theater was good enough to have us, and I can't wait. I've been sort of shuttling back and forth for a while now, working on this, and I really wanted to make a theater event that was for rock and roll fans. I tell everybody first and foremost, we have all these filters. First of all, it has the punk rock filter. There's got to be nothing cheesy, nothing musical theater about it. Two, there's got to be the heavy metal filter. It's got to be a great effing rock and roll show first and foremost with a story. Three, it's got to be hip hop. It's got to have the swagger of these cities' streets. And hip hop's been interwoven with much of the music in my career. It's a very, very important part of it. And then four, it's got to be a Chicago story. And that was very, very important to me to come home and do this.
I love it. This is your Hamilton. I'm very excited for you. This is amazing.
It is very much my Hamilton. Yeah.
Now, when you got the script or the playwright for the first time, were you prepared to read this and go, "This sucks. I am not doing the music for that"? Were you prepared?
Exactly. Yeah, I was skeptical because I don't even know what that is. What is a musical that has my music interwoven in it? I don't know. But first and foremost, it was a beautiful story. It's this kind of multi-generational story of love and rebellion set in this city. Something I know a little bit about. And then the next challenge, I'm like, okay, so this is a really beautiful story that I would love to see, but how does my music work in it, and how does that come across? And we got some of the best people in the business doing this, who have done some of the the biggest shows and really know how to do that. And so they took my tunes, and they took this story, and we've merged them together to make something that feels very special in Revolutions.
I like this kind of thing as well because there's people that have lived in Chicago their whole life and have never been to the Goodman Theater, the iconic historic building. And I think your music and this story will bring people to it that have never been.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the hope. And someone's like, I'm not going to musical theater. You know what I mean? Like the idea was to have something that was going to be a different kind of artistic expression than the Goodman's ever seen before. And then something that really relates to, I'm telling you, we got to go in this place. We got to rock the effing place to the ground. Like you got to start with that. And then there's a story. So
yes.
that's our intent.
It's really funny that, we're talking about this now because just on our show today, he has only seen one musical and it was Rocky Horror Picture Show and he didn't like it. And I go, listen, saying you don't like musicals is like saying you don't like soup because they're all so different. And this is the soup he needs to try. He needs to try your musical.
That is a very accurate analogy, and especially we've been working on this over the course of the last few years, and at a time now, in this city where you've got, like armed mass dudes in the streets pulling people over. Like, we could not have imagined a better time and a more appropriate time for art like this. There may come a time in the not too distant future where the music that I have made, the ideas in those songs, the people on the stages, the people in the audience might be censored and censured and erased. And so we're gonna go down swinging.
Amen.
Love it.
Amen.
I love it.
So Revolutions at the Goodman Theater through November 9th, leading right up to Tom Morello and Friends at the Vic, Thursday, November 13th. We can't wait for that. And Tom, we always love it when you give us a check-in, and we can't wait to get you in the studio soon.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for supporting my music for decade after decade. Right on.
Well, thank you, and go Cubs.
Go Cubs.
Let's go. Thanks, Tom.
All right, peace.
Brian and Kenzie in the morning, and Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.